the state budget. Now, it is an election year, and traditionally, governments always find lots of hollow logs, lots of pots of money when they want to try and buy our votes in an election year. And because we now have 4-year terms here in Victoria, you know that 2018 is going to be a big spending year. That's right now. You know that in 4 years' time, 2022, when we have the next state election, that'll be a big spending year too. You can basically set your watch by it. So Tim Pallas, the State Treasurer, has got an $80 billion infrastructure spending plan over the next 4 years. All sorts of things: roads, rail, level crossing removals, school, health. I mean, you name it, there's money to be spent on it. He's going to make a whole lot of TAFE courses for free. A lot of the TAFE training courses are for things like, concreting and pipe laying and practical sorts of things, I guess, to concern with all the infrastructure that the government wants to build. But some of it's in things like hairdressing, for example, and being a dental assistant. That I find slightly odd. Wages in the public sector are going to go up 10% over the next 4 years. I don't know if that's a pay rise for each public servant or 10% more public servants, but I guess all these big new spending programs that the state government has will require lots of government employees to oversee them. Sadly, at the same time that the state government is going to open a so-called safe injecting facility for ice and heroin addicts, they're also going to open a whole lot of secure emergency rooms for ice addicts. Now, what these are is a place where violent ice addicts have to be sent because they might need 5 or 6 nurses to hold them down while they're being treated. So on one hand, we have a safe injecting room where you take your drugs, and then up the road at a hospital like St Vincent's, for example, they'll have a special emergency room dedicated to you when you get violent and angry from taking those same drugs. Good news if you run a business in regional Victoria, there'll be a payroll tax cut. Now, this is good news because payroll tax, if you're a small business person, is one of the worst taxes in the world. Once your payroll goes over a certain threshold, usually around $650,000, you suddenly get walloped with several percent of your payroll as a tax straight to the state government. I've never heard a good excuse or a good rationale for the payroll tax, but at least in regional Victoria, it's being cut. So the big question is, where is all the money coming from? How do we build infrastructure? How do we remove level crossings? How do we build emergency rooms for ice addicts? How do we cut payroll tax? How do we increase the wages of public sector workers? Well, the money, of course, comes from all of us. Specifically, Victoria has the strongest growing population in Australia. In the last year, Melbourne's population alone went up 125,000 people. That is forecast to continue. And that is at the heart of the state government's finances. More people means more taxes. More people means higher property prices. Higher property prices means more stamp duty. That's going up dramatically. Higher property prices also means more land tax. And if you have a beach house or an investment property or a negatively geared residential tenancy, the land tax on all of those is going to go up. And again, because of higher population, the GST share that we get from the federal government is going up almost $1 billion. The state opposition has called this budget a Ponzi scheme, like the old airplane game where people have to keep coming in and putting money in so that those at the other end can get their money out. And you know what, the state opposition is right. We'll speak to Michael O'Brien about this later on in the program. But the fact is this: 25 years ago, Victoria had negative population growth. People were packing their bags and leaving this state. Now, of course, we've got the opposite. People want to come here. They come here from overseas. They come here from interstate. They love the fact that there are jobs and there are still relatively affordable houses. There are opportunities here. There is a price to pay, of course. Crowded roads, crowded schools, crowded emergency rooms at hospitals, etc., etc., etc. This government cannot afford to stop the population tap. Increasing our population to over 125,000 people a year is the heart of this state budget. It keeps tax revenue up, it keeps property prices up, and that keeps the state government and its big spending plans afloat. 96900 693 13 13 32, and I might add, to his credit, the Treasurer Tim Pallas will record a $1.4 billion surplus.